Hi everybody, my name is Joshua Winkins and welcome back to another video. Now this video is a review of the Panasonic G7. Now the Panasonic G7 comes in around $500 to $600, so it's definitely a cheaper camera. So if you're looking for a nice budget camera, this is definitely a great route to go. As well as the camera is a mirrorless camera. The very simplistic, summed up definition of mirrorless camera is it just means it's lighter than a big DSLR camera. So if you're looking for a nice, cheap, and lightweight camera, a Panasonic G7 is definitely a great route to go. As well as this camera is micro four thirds, which one thing micro four thirds is obviously you need to use micro four thirds lenses, but the other problem with micro four thirds is the crop is 2 times. So let's say you're using a 20mm lens with Panasonic camera, unfortunately that actually is the same thing as a 40mm lens. So that's definitely something you have to keep in mind with Panasonic. The crop is definitely really big and it's really noticeable. As well as this camera has a 16 megapixel sensor, so it's not like a really advanced sensor. So if you're looking for like a really high level sensor like one of those like Sony Alpha series, this is definitely not the best route to go. But if you're looking for a nice, cheap, lightweight camera, this is definitely a great route for you guys to go to if you're looking for your first beginner camera. As well as this camera does shoot at 4K and it shoots at 30 frames per second and 24 frames per second in 4K. It does have 1080 and the highest it can go is 60 frames per second, which the only problem if you're just beginning, that just means the slow motion isn't as good. Usually people use like 120 as good slow motion, so you're not gonna have amazing slow motion, but it does shoot in 4K, which can be really helpful. Unfortunately, only having a 16 megapixel sensor definitely limits you even in 4K, so it's something you always have to keep in mind, as well as it's cropped. So let's go ahead and kind of jump onto some of the big and cool features this camera has to offer. Okay guys, 3 of the big features of the Panasonic G7 is the first one, the 3-inch flip-out LCD screen, which means you can actually flip it out, so when you're doing vlogging or you're doing sit-down videos like this, you can actually see yourself, which is really nice to make sure you're not overexposed, to make sure you're in focus, make sure you're in frame. That's definitely one really nice feature of the G7. As well as it is Wi-Fi compatible, which means you can like share photos via Wi-Fi, as well as you can use like the Panasonic remote app through Wi-Fi. So it's definitely the second big feature of this Panasonic, and definitely the third and biggest feature of this Panasonic camera is without doubt 4K photo burst mode. You can go ahead and mess with it a little bit, but what it just means is actually like you hold the thing down, it shoots like 600 photos or as long as you want, and it'll basically, you can go through, especially doing like action shots, you can go through and actually pick the one you want. So it's really nice to be able to capture the best shot, make sure there's no blur, but that's definitely the third big feature. The LCD screen, Wi-Fi compatible, as well as this can do 4K photo burst mode. Those are definitely the 3 biggest features of the Panasonic G7. Let's go ahead and hop onto the, unfortunately, the 2 big downsides of this camera. Now, as cool as this camera is, having all these cool features, unfortunately having a price tag at $500 means you're going to lose a couple of things, and the 2 biggest things you lose in the Panasonic G7 is stabilization and focusing, autofocus, manual focus, so on. So I'll give you guys a few quick tips on how to fix these problems. First one, stabilization. Definitely go ahead and purchase some kind of stabilized lens. Make sure you do your research, find a good stabilized lens, as well as when we try to get a gimbal or so on, tripod. Those are definitely some quick examples of things you should get to stabilize your footage. But in general, horrible in-camera stabilization, so make sure you do something to help fix that. The second one, autofocusing, not being able to focus that well. Go ahead and do your research. I actually going to put a link up to a video that I did, talked about the best settings for your Panasonic camera. But basically the simplistic, summarized version of that is do your research, make sure you know which lens. Certain lenses are good at autofocus, certain lenses are bad at manual focus. But if you're doing autofocus lens, I'm using the 25mm lens. It's a great lens to be doing autofocus. I actually did a review on it right here. I'll link it up right over here. It's definitely a great lens to do autofocus, and definitely make sure your thing is on face and eye detection if you're doing these kind of videos, or I believe it's called single point if you're doing some sort of vlogging. Those are kind of the few quick tips on how to fix those 2 problems, but definitely stabilization and focusing are the 2 biggest downsides of this camera. Let's go ahead and hop over to some of the best accessories you can own for this Panasonic camera. Okay guys, so definitely when you buy a new camera, you want to get some nice accessories. The 3 big accessories that I can recommend for the Panasonic G7. The first one is right here, the Rode Video Micro. Did a video on it, I'll link it up here. As well as you want to get a nice lens. I usually use either this one, the 14-42 kit lens, as well as I use the 25mm lens. Those are my 2 main lenses, and those are good beginner lenses when starting out with the Panasonic G7. As well as for tripods, I usually use the Slick tripod, the Slick 150, and I also use a Joby tripod, which is right down here. Go ahead and link them all in the description. But those are definitely some of the 3 different types. There are actually 4 of the biggest accessories and the best accessories that you should use as a Panasonic user. I guess if you're not including this one, it's actually 5 accessories, but in 3 categories. But let's go ahead and kind of finish off this video, as well as giving you guys a recommendation whether or not you should or shouldn't buy this camera. Okay guys, to basically sum up my recommendation of this camera, my recommendation is yes, you should buy this camera, but there is a but. If you're looking for a nice budget beginner camera, if you're looking for a more professional camera, you want to shoot higher end films, definitely go ahead and do some like Sony Alpha series. But my recommendation, a nice, cheap, lightweight budget camera for beginners, yes, I highly recommend the Panasonic G7. As well as this video is not sponsored. This is my complete opinion. I know no one's sponsoring me, no one's telling me to do any of this. Anyways guys, hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to go ahead and leave a like on this video, as well as go down below and hit that subscribe button, and turn the bell to be notified when I upload new videos, as well as comment down below whatever you want. If I didn't mention something and you're thinking about buying the camera, I'll definitely try to go ahead and answer some of your questions. As always guys, I do new videos every Sunday and Thursday at 6 p.m. all about filming tutorials, travel, and camera gear. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!